Hey there, awesome learners. Welcome back. Today, we're diving into a classic story by Carlos Bulosan called My Father Goes to Court. This tale is packed with humor, cleverness, and the spirit of Filipino families. So let's put on our judges' robes and examine how characters come to life in this delightful story. 1. Plot summary. First, let's break down the story using the 5-part plot structure. Exposition. The story begins with a cheerful Filipino family living in a small, simple home. They may not have much, but they're always full of joy and laughter. In contrast, their wealthy neighbor is serious and grumpy, showing how happiness can differ from having money. Rising action. Over time, the rich man becomes annoyed by the family's happiness. He believes they're stealing the spirit of his delicious cooking just by enjoying its smell, even though they haven't taken anything. Climax. The situation escalates when the rich man files a complaint against the family, claiming they've taken his food spirit. The case goes to court, where the judge listens to both sides. The father then cleverly responds to this silly accusation. Falling action. In a funny twist, the father shakes some coins from his pocket and tells the rich man that the sound of his coins should be payment for the food smell. Resolution. The courtroom bursts into laughter and the judge agrees with the father. The poor family wins the case, ending the story on a triumphant note, showcasing their dignity and humor despite the absurdity of the situation. Literary genre. My Father Goes to Court is a short story, which means it tells a complete tale in just a few pages. Short stories focus on a single plot and a small group of characters, leading to a powerful conclusion in a brief time frame. Unlike novels, they usually deal with one main conflict. Setting. Now let's talk about where the story takes place. The story is set in a small, rural Filipino town. Most scenes happen around the family's cozy home and the local courthouse. While the rich neighbor lives in a fancy house filled with delicious cooking smells, the narrator's family finds happiness playing in the fields and enjoying each other's company. This contrast highlights the warmth and community spirit often celebrated in Filipino culture. Characters. Let's meet the characters who make this story unforgettable. The narrator's father. He's a clever and resourceful man who shows resilience and wit. He's not ashamed of their poverty, but instead takes pride in their happiness, proving that true wealth is in love and laughter. The narrator. A young family member who helps us see the humor and warmth in their lives and the ridiculousness of the court case. The rich neighbor. A serious, greedy man who envies the family's joy. He struggles to understand their happiness, leading to the ridiculous lawsuit. Conflict. A unique conflict shows how humor and creativity can solve problems. Type of conflict. Man versus man. This conflict highlights the difference between rich and poor. The rich man thinks his money gives him the right to control everything, even the spirit of his food. The father, however, stands firm, showing that happiness and creativity aren't owned by the wealthy. Point of view. We get to experience the story through the narrator's eyes, making it relatable. The story is told from the first-person perspective of a young family member. This viewpoint helps us connect with their joyful spirit and see the events through a curious, childlike lens. Themes. Let's explore the key themes of this story. Happiness and wealth. The story teaches us that true wealth isn't about how much money you have, but rather the joy shared with family. The poor family's happiness stands in stark contrast to the rich man's loneliness. Justice and creativity. The father's clever response in court shows that sometimes humor and creativity can triumph over money and power. Characterization. So, what is characterization? Well, it's how authors create and develop characters in a story. It helps us understand who the characters are, what they're like, and how they change throughout the tale. There are two main ways authors use characterization. 1. Direct characterization. This is when the author tells us about a character's traits directly. For example, they might say, "She is brave," or "He is kind." It's straightforward. 2. Indirect characterization. This is a bit more subtle. Instead of telling us, the author shows us who the character is through their actions, speech, and interactions with others. For instance, if a character always helps others, we might infer that they are caring and selfless. So let's just study some characterization from the story. Direct characterization. Santos uses clear descriptions to help us understand the characters. Narrator's father. He's described as a joyful and witty man who enjoys life despite being poor. The narrator shares, "My father was a young and robust man. He was always laughing and joking." Wealthy neighbor. The rich man is depicted as serious and stern, showing he cares more about money than happiness. The narrator notes, "The rich man was thin and pale and never laughed." Indirect characterization. Character traits are revealed through actions and dialogue. Narrator's family. Their joy is shown through their laughter and togetherness. The narrator describes, "We would hear laughter in our house often, and we enjoyed the smell of food without necessarily eating it." Wealthy family. Their coldness and focus on money are shown through their isolation. The narrator observes, "The rich man's children were always inside the house, and they never seemed to be happy." Father's humor in court. His clever response to the lawsuit, when he pays for the smell of food with the sound of coins, shows his sharp wit and pride. He says, "Your Honor, we are ready to pay for the smell of his food with the sound of our money." Finally, in My Father Goes to Court, we learn that true wealth comes from the joy and laughter we share with one another. Bulosan's story is a timeless reminder of Filipino creativity and strength in tough times. If you enjoyed this classic tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know which Filipino stories you'd love to hear about next. I hope to see you in the next video.